Hello and welcome to Plus One to Gaming. I'm Chris,
And I'm Eric.
I'm Billy.
And I'm Mark.
and today we are revisiting our Zero session for Adventure 4 and Candlekeep Mysteries, A Deep and Creeping Darkness. It's been a while since we've had the whole table together, so welcome back, everyone. We've had a few weeks in between since that last Zero session we had, and now, in that time between, I think all three of us took major pivots with our characters and our backstories. So we thought it'd be smart to share our character updates and maybe establish some party dynamics. And then Mark, give you a chance to jump in with any game or setting things you want to share. So does that sound good for everybody?
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, Billy, I think you surprised all of us with your character choice, going from our Zero session to where we are now. Do you want to go first and introduce your character and tell us a little bit about them?
So I definitely pivoted hard. I just didn't think this was the time or the place to throw in my character that's like a super multi-class, just because I would have to reskin a bunch of different classes at once. And it's not the best time. And so having like a part wizard, part, ranger, part bard, like that, there's no direct. So it would have been like a part Jedi, part bounty hunter, part, it just didn't work as fun. So then I was listening to your introduction to your characters, and I thought that I'm kind of become predictable in that I make like goofy characters that aren't really that useful but are just fun to play. And so I thought I'm going to have a character that's 100% not utilitarian. He is combat oriented. He has some utility, but it is a a, a traditional D&D character in the Star Wars realm. So no tech, no spacefaring anything. Like, it is one of the forgotten races, kind of boring races that I thought, until I saw that it's a popular race in Star Wars Old Republic game. Apparently it's one of those, so I thought I was onto something with like the goofy guard guys that look like they're wearing giant diapers.
Well, stop teasing us. Tell us what your character is.
So my character's name, it's hard to pronounce because he doesn't speak common. His name is like Grul. So I put it down as Gub Grulk, but it's just guttural sounds. He is a Gamorrean barbarian, which are those green pig monsters that were the guards in the hut. In the traditional Star Wars universe, you see them. They have the battle axes, and they kind of just squeal a lot and die. But Gulk is a ex bodyguard. There's not much known about his early childhood. Quickly, he rose up the ranks in the Hut cartel, Hut clan, whatever you want to call them, as a bodyguard, and was kind of their guard captain, as they call it. So he led a guard squad, and some things happened that we can find out maybe later on, or I don't know. It's hard to find out his backstory because you don't really know. But he is no longer a hot bodyguard. He is now a mercenary barbarian, which I thought was the most perfect class for a Gamorrean, because they just charge in and swing, and they have big heavy axes, and I thought this one would work perfectly for Star Wars. Like, everybody else had to reskin their classes to be more high tech and use robots instead of animals, and use blasters instead of pistols, but he still uses a battle axe. He does everything 100% by the book as a barbarian. So there's
That's
absolutely
awesome.
no changes at all. He is just a barbarian.
I think that's cool. I mean, that's a direct, like the reskinning on that, I really like. I think it makes total sense.
Yeah, I mean, reskinning the race, but yeah, not reskinning at all the class. So I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah, like that dovetails perfectly.
Yeah.
So with the race, what did you reskin? Is it half orc?
Kind of. I threw it. It's mostly half orc. There was already a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, Star Wars stuff out there, and so there actually was something for the Gamorrean, but I didn't use it perfectly. It's kind of like a half orc with
That makes sense though.
with just I changed the what they got, which was because they're all just it's strength and constitution because they very similar to the half orc and had like the savage attacks, which is a half orc thing, which I all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a perfect carryover for Gamorrean. Bill, can you share? I guess like one thing that I want to know from all of our characters is like, why are they now an adventurer? Like, is that something that you can share at this point, or do you want to hold it for the story and game?
I can share. Okay, so here's the hard part that we should probably talk about is that Gub doesn't speak Common. He can only speak Gamorrean. He understands other languages, but he cannot vocalize anything but that guttural pig language. I don't remember seeing anybody that speaks Gamorrean, so I don't know if you guys are going to be able to understand his communications directly. So I think a lot of the communication from him is going to be based on gestures and nodding, like simple, wait, go over there, I understand, yes, type of things. So
is that just quickly, is that something that you're like excited to role play, or is that something that you feel like it's kind of an unfortunate part of this reskin?
I think it's I was thinking it was going to be unfortunate, like how am I going to do this? And I was thinking that maybe the droids will just translate, but they're not protocol droids. Nobody has a protocol droid, so they're not translating. So they may not be able to translate. And so the more I thought about it, the more I realized it's actually going to be fun because number one, it keeps me from kind of running the show because I won't be able to make a lot of decisions. I can just hint, like point at directions and nod or growl if somebody says something I don't want to do. So I think that's going to be a challenge to me, which is kind of what I like. That's why I make characters that aren't really effective, because it's fun for me to try to overcome self-inflicted challenges. So I think this is one of them.
That's cool. Actually, Billy, it's so funny. I have my notes on screen, and I have like for our characters, I have some questions that I wanted to ask you guys to just like learn more about them and to share that with our listeners. And it's so freaking weird because you basically, without even knowing, you went ahead and answered all of these questions, which I love you for. Thank you. Is there anything else unique about this character that you want to share? Like, do you want to share maybe these ideals, traits, bonds, and flaws a little bit to like kind of give us like what motivates this character? I think that might be the last question that I have for you.
Sure. So he is very action oriented. He doesn't talk a lot. Not only can you not understand him, but even to other Gamorreans, he's not a talker. So his trait is talking is overrated, action is better, and the direct solution is the best solution. So he's kind of not a charge forward, but not a super planner. He just does what he needs to do to get things done. His ideals are gaining power is a mean unto itself. And so his goal is to just get as much power, and power to everybody is different, but for him, it is the ability to kill, literal power. And that is his goal. And he hates force users, the force wielders, as he calls them. And you can find, it's tied to his backstory. We can maybe get into it before, but any force wielder at all, he cannot stand. So that with a barbarian who can go into rage, maybe that has some fun aspects to it.
Yeah.
His bond is one is only as strong as his word. So he is very direct, very honest. He doesn't do any subterfuge. He will tell you exactly what he's going to do, and then he's going to do it. And he doesn't like sneaking around or subtlety or any of that stuff. Not only does he not understand it, but he doesn't like it.
Okay. So how do you think you'll play this character in the game? Like, do you have kind of an idea of how you want to role play them?
Yeah. So he's going to be kind of he's used to being like, even as a captain of a bodyguard, he's used to just being hired muscle. And so that's how I'm going to play him, is that he's hired muscle. for this event. I don't know how you guys can tie it in that he was hired as muscle, but he's not one to question his things. He does what he's told. But if you try to trick him or betray him or any of that stuff, he's a barbarian. He does get mad. But it's mostly he's a soldier first and foremost. He follows orders, direct me to where I'm going to go and I'm going to go there type of thing. So that's how I'm going to play him.
Very cool. Awesome character. Eric,
Nice.
do you want to introduce your character?
So my character's name is Ark Kuhn, and
Well played.
Oh.
I've seen both of those are Star Wars names from like Exar Kun, and in the Old Republic game there was a guy named Arik.
Yeah.
I was like, all right,
That's great.
perfect. And her trusty little astromech RX-13. So Arik came from a backwater town or a backwater world at the edge of the galaxy in the Outer Rim. She's the daughter of a junk salesman kind of thing. She spent her childhood kind of tinkering in the shop and kind of aimless, not really having any drive and not having any real way off of the planet or into a better life. And one day a bounty hunter came to her town looking for a mark. He asked her to help out a little bit, and she did. Nothing dramatic, but when the bounty hunter caught his collar, he flipped her a coin and basically told her, like, hey, when you grow up, come find me. I'll sponsor you into the Bounty Hunters Guild. So Arik joined the military. I don't know what time frame we're in, so I don't know what military she was in. Republic or Empire. She got basic training. She learned to use a blaster and fly a ship. She graduated at the top of her cadet school, and went into the Special Forces, but was hurt on a training mission shortly thereafter, so she didn't get to spend a lot of time in the military. So after being discharged, she decided there was nothing else to do, so she sought out the bounty hunter, and he sponsored her to join the guild. So she's a newly gilded bounty hunter looking to make some money, get some collars, do whatever she needs to do so that she can buy a ship in order to basically make it to the big leagues.
Very cool. So with Arik, what's what the race and class? What are we looking at here?
She's a human ranger. I wanted to do kind of, like a race reskin, but I found, just kind of looking around, the concept art that inspired this character. So talking about the pivots we all went on, I originally wanted to be an astromech, and then similar to Billy's communication problem, realized that might not work, and astromechs are really mechanically focused, and so I'm not going to have any utility because I'm not going to be fixing you guys. So then I decided, okay, maybe then a medical droid, because that is, fixing you guys. But then I saw this concept art of this character and was like, oh, never mind. I want to play her. And she was a human. So I did not reskin a race. And she's a ranger. She is a ranger with a primal companion, which is one of the options that made the Beastmaster actually playable.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so normal rangers, it has been a very long time since I've played a ranger, and I'm not sure I've ever played a Beastmaster one, but you have to summon your pets, and they're like spells almost. The primal companion, the pet, just stays with you all the time, and you can choose between a beast of the land, sea, or sky. And they come with their own stat block and everything. So basically, I reskinned a beast of the land into the astromech RX-13.
Nice.
So in combat, the beast acts on your turn. So it's I believe they use my bonus action to do whatever. So it can move and use its reaction on its own, but the only action it takes is the dodge unless I tell it to do something. So it has, again, its own stat block, and it can do some things. I was thinking about potentially splitting up my skills and giving giving RX like, I don't know, like I want him to be able to like hack stuff, like open doors and stuff the way that astromechs do in Star Wars. So like lock picking or something like that. Like if I were going to do it, I would just have him do it, just like kind of like thematically.
Yeah.
But I don't even have I have thieves tools, but I don't even have sleight of hand proficiency. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I can add my proficiency bonus to any ability check that he makes. He has a charge, so basically just like full steam ahead runs into somebody. And they have a maul. So basically like, what is it? It's 1d8 plus 2 plus PB slashing damage. I don't know what PB is. I see that in here a couple times. Proficiency bonus. I thought I might change that damage to like shock damage, and he just has like a little taser thing similar to like R2 and stuff like that, because I don't want him to like have like a buzz saw or something come out and slash somebody. It's kind of gruesome. But
yeah, it's like R2 and Chopper both had like stun gun attachments.
And I actually looked for a Chopper like soundboard because I like Chopper's voice better than R2's voice. R2's voice drives me crazy, and Chopper's awesome. I was thinking about buying a kazoo because that. So I don't know if you knew this, Mark, but Chopper is Dave Filoni.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
He voice acts it, and I don't know how, but it sounds like he's just talking through a damn kazoo. So that could still happen, I guess. We don't know. But yeah, so I've based him pretty severely off of Chopper. But yeah, that's the primal companion.
Awesome. How are you challenging yourself with this character? Kind of going back to our conversation a couple weeks ago about like getting better at D&D, setting your goal. Like, what are you bringing in from that conversation with this character?
Yes, I mean, it's kind of similar to Billy. This is, even though it's like reskinned a ranger into a bounty hunter, it's a very nuts and bolts D&D class, like kind of classic archetype. I picked all the personality and ideals and bonds and flaws from, the lists that we get. I didn't write, I changed one a little bit. But the challenge that I think I have and the way that I'm going to challenge myself is that this character would typically be like the loner kind of brooding edgelord kind of. And I want to try to find a way to do that in a way that like is still very conducive to gameplay and like team play. So another one of the kind of inspirations and something I thought was really neat about The Mandalorian, the show, was that like every other Mandalorian or bounty hunter or like Lone Ranger type figure, they are alone. They do it by themselves. But Mando always asks for help and always like enlists friends and stuff to get stuff done. And I thought that was really interesting because you never see that as like an archetype on any real like movies or shows. Like it's always like, I'll do this on my own. Like Mando and Grogu are the lone wolf and cub, like pretty cut and dry. Like that's their trope. And that trope doesn't play well with others kind of thing. But he, again, like in almost every episode, he's like working collaboratively with somebody. So I want to try to bring some of that into the what would also normally be a very classically like solo oriented personality.
Nice. So then based on that, what are you looking to get out of this character?
It's a weird question.
Like in terms of like when you get that like, oh man, this was a really great session because I was able to do this with my character. Like what would that look like?
I did. Okay, good. Okay. So I did make her like bond. Her bond is I need a ship if I'm going to become a great bounty hunter. So like she does have a pretty like kind of selfish goal, like not necessarily selfish, but it's not like I want to help others. Like it is, I need to get this for my career basically. So I think a great session would be like if I can move her toward her goal and have her kind of grow in the more like team oriented vein also. So like basically going down two paths of growth, like growth becoming like a more social person and helping others when that's not necessarily her goal, but I think she is a good person. I put lawful evil as the alignment, but I don't remember doing that. That might be a holdover from somebody else. I would say she's probably lawful neutral. So to potentially like maybe move her into like kind of a lawful good-ish through like storytelling. I want her to grow a little bit.
That's cool. So you're like kind of like balancing or reconciling the selfish goal with the team-oriented goal, and then at the same point moving them along that alignment continuum. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a standard story arc, character arc. Like she starts out kind of selfish and only worried about herself. However, we come into contact with the team over time. At the beginning they're probably a means to an end, but I want her to grow to like value them, I guess.
So based on that, how are you going to play the character and role play and like kind of manifest those things? Have you thought about that?
A little bit. And again, like it's a tough like tightrope to walk, because if you play like the brooding class a little too much, then it doesn't lend itself at all to any growth or collaboration. And most of my other characters have just been like full bore, like we're friends, let's go. So
yeah,
I need to find. I've thought about it, but I haven't. I mean, obviously, like play tested it or anything. I need to find that line between the two. I need her to feel a little reluctant, but not be reluctant enough that it grinds the conversations or the game down. But if she's not like, I don't know, if she's not reluctant in the beginning, then there's no growth. Like if she's just like, I'm a well-adjusted person the whole time, it doesn't feel like she didn't learn anything. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It is something that I am aware of and will probably course correct several times.
Yeah, and I think that's fine too. Is there anything else you want to share about Ark?
I do. So you asked Billy about, there's a couple things. You asked Billy about personality, flaws, bonds, that kind of stuff. So her personality traits are that she always has a plan for what to do when things go wrong, and that she's incredibly slow to trust. Those who seem the fairest often have the most to hide. So she doesn't have like a traumatic background, but she's seen enough, like growing up in the junker trade, that like everybody's trying to get a little bit over, like you're just wheeling and dealing. So she came from that. Her ideals are bounties are the law and I am the law. She really wants to be something kind of greater than she grew up to be. So she takes that very seriously. Her bond is that she needs a ship if she's going to be a great bounty hunter. And then her flaw is when faced with a choice between money and friends, I'll usually choose the money. And a lot of times with my characters, I've mentioned this before, I want two goals for them. I want like a long term and a short term. So her long term is to get the ship. Her short term is to like get the bounty, which, feeds into the long term. And then not esoteric, but maybe like next level is to fix the flaw. So that's the, like, if you're thinking cinematically, like the pivotal point where like she has to choose between friends and money, and you're like, oh, normally she would choose money and then she chooses friends, kind of thing. So she has to grow in order to fix that flaw. The other thing I wanted to talk about, so I'm the human, so I took a feat because I love feats, and her feat is magic initiate.
Ooh.
Because I felt like the ranger, like you get some spells, you get some stuff, but one of the things that bounty hunters are like really well known for are gadgets and cool tricks that they have up their sleeves. So I wanted to give her some other tools. So I took a couple cantrips and I think one more first level spell for her, and reskinned all of them to do Star Warsy stuff.
Nice. Do you want to share what those are, or do you want to wait and use them in the game?
Sure, I'll share them because who knows, I might not use a single one of them. So I took shocking cantrips. Shocking grasp is like a shock glove, basically. Easy stuff. The light cantrip was just her lantern. Who knows? I don't have dark vision. I don't know if y'all do. Ensnaring, so then her first level spells. Ensnaring Strike is a ranger spell. That's just like a bolo. Hunter's Mark. I struggled a little trying to reskin this one, so I just had it like geotagging. And then Fog Cloud is just like a smoke bomb. And then Thunder Wave is like her last like oh shit button, basically. Her like armored defense has like you hit their big red button and it shoots out like a pulse in case she gets overwhelmed.
Very cool.
Yeah, to cycle back to my guy. He's not tech worthy. Like he
Mhm.
he doesn't prefer it, but like I forgot to say, like the everybody got a magic item, right?
Oh yeah, I didn't pick one.
You probably
I thought you had your jump boots.
Were
jump
you?
boots?
Did
He
you
listened.
listen to the? I was like, how do you know that we talked about that?
Yeah, you don't. And I was like one of 3 people that listened to it, and I commented. If you didn't see, I commented that being effective is overrated.
I did
Yeah, I
see
saw
that
that.
actually.
Because it is.
Yeah, okay. I could. What? We hadn't talked to Bill about it yet, so I didn't want to commit.
No, it makes sense. We're level 4. We have 1 item. So mine is one of them is just a +1 axe because it makes the most sense, and it's kind of because even though they're all officially the same, they are definitely not equal in power.
Yeah.
So I took the main one that I took is very powerful, but it made the most sense thematically. So his plate armor is Mind Temple plate armor, which I don't know exactly what it's called in the game. It may actually be called something different. But basically what it does is it gives me advantages on intelligent, wisdom, and charisma saving throws.
Nice.
Which I thought was good because he was a Hut bodyguard, and so as he became a captain in the Hut bodyguard, he was issued this armor because it gives him, it makes it harder to do like force mind tricks on him. And that's exactly what the Hut would want. They don't want like a guard to just have anybody who's force sensitive to just.
They discovered their one big flaw that you can just tell their guards to turn around, and they're like, okay.
Yeah, so like only the guard captains have it. So it is. I haven't figured out thematically how it would work to make it immune. So I thought like, oh, it'd be like computer and all this other stuff, and then I just realized it could also just be armor that has like like thousands of little like dermal pins in it that as you move or anything like that, it just constantly like pricks you enough that like it's it
That's badass.
Keeps you in the moment, so you can't be like taken away mentally.
Yeah, so as soon as you do something, like it just pricks you enough that like you're always paying attention to what's happening. Like it's hard to.
Okay. That's fair, but you have to take 1d6 every time you walk.
Oh yeah,
in case the pins malfunction.
Yeah, it was like very slight dermal, just enough, like because he also has thick pig skin. Yeah. I don't know, if you guys think of something else thematic that would do
Star Wars, it's like a semi-magical world. Like you use kyber crystals to create a lightsaber. You know, there's metal, like Mandalorian metal is really special. Like maybe it's some kind of like just by virtue of the metal.
Yeah, like
itself.
Force.
I like the idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's pretty sweet. I get what you're saying. Just because he's a fighter and a guard, but he's not like a Luddite. Like he still lives in the Star Wars galaxy, and can like fly a ship and use technology.
He can open. You have to use technology to open doors. You know, like
right? Yeah.
he's not an idiot. He prefers to not use. Like he has his axe.
Yeah. Well, technology can fail. An axe is hard to fail in the hands of a Gamorrean.
And so, like,
I like the dermal. I like the idea that you came up with so far because I feel like it plays into his like physicality and potential to rage. You know,
yeah. And I thought it would work with like the Hutts because they are not really like super high tech people, and they don't really care about their bodyguards. So you give something that's uncomfortable for them, but it makes them better at their job.
Yeah, it's
perfect.
Like, can he overpower his suit to like force some sort of benefit from his class? I don't know, but it seems like there's a cool thing to play off of there.
Yeah, with the rage mechanic, it makes perfect sense
for sure. And his like the +1 great axe, I was just gonna have that like it's that almost like electro great axe that you see that so you can go hand in hand just in case we find somebody with like a lightsaber or anything like that. That's his goal.
Vibro blades can
vibro blades.
Yeah,
so it could be a vibro axe.
It would be like either a vibro axe or like an electric axe, but it doesn't do electric damage. So vibro axe would probably be the best.
Because supposedly those stand up to lightsabers.
Yeah, That's what they say. I mean, like
What they say.
We'll see.
based on my limited knowledge of video games.
Yeah. What? So, nuts and bolts. What level items did y'all give yourselves, and how many?
I did 2 uncommon items.
Okay.
That's the Great Axe +1 is
Mhm.
uncommon, and the Mind Temple plate armor is uncommon as well.
Yeah.
But it is a much more powerful uncommon. So
That's pretty. Where are you? What list are you
super
pulling them
powerful.
from?
I looked just from the player's handbook.
the
The treasures, like the rewards section. Or maybe it's in
'Cause
the DMs.
I'm on like a wiki that's got a whole bunch.
Yeah, but the I believe the player's handbook breaks out magic items in by tier, and yeah, we just picked.
If you go to D&D Beyond and you
Mhm.
just look at slash magic dash items, you'll see the list that I used, and you can just switch to uncommon and then select armor, and it is called Mind Carapace armor. It is part of the Volo's Guide to Monsters.
So yeah, that's why I like the online list, because it has everything on it, not just the player's handbook.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but instead of a carapace, I made it Mind Temple.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just made it a little bit more.
Sounds
Star Wars.
badass.
Yeah,
Mind Temple sounds really cool.
but yeah. It is uncommon armor. It has to be on plate, which makes sense because he's a. For the feat he took is heavy armor, because normally barbarians cannot wear heavy armor, but that his
Oh,
feat he took.
So does the
was-
armor interfere with any of the barbarian mechanics?
It does not, as long as you have the heavy armor feat,
Mm.
the one that he took.
And I guess
So-
that at that point, that's going to be more advantageous than the natural armor that you'd get from the barb.
Yeah, he has no dexterity, which is what it's like strength, dexterity, and constitution.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's dexterity and constitution, not strength at all. His
Yeah.
dex is bad. He's a pig monster. It's not
Yeah.
bad. It's not good.
It's not great.
And so, like, yeah, it would definitely. He's a full bodyguard, and like I think that it made sense that instead of wearing the diapers that he had when he was a
Lowly
just a normal bodyguard, like
Yeah.
they give him like higher end plate armor. It's pretty common in Star Wars.
Yeah, they upgraded him to the metal
Yeah.
at a certain point, and then they gave him some legs to
Yeah.
add to it.
It's like his first green set of armor.
Exactly.
Term.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, I'll introduce my character real quick, and then we'll pass it over to Mark and we'll wrap up this session. So I'm playing a tech smuggler named Bidu Dodama. He is a Rhodian, and Bidu's always been the galaxy's most curious Rhodian. Some would say that his curiosity is what'll get him killed, but Bidu is interested, not a fool. And he inherited his parents' obsessive scientific intellect and just can't help but understand and explore the world. So Bidu tried to put his mind to constructive use as a Republic scientist, but he became bored with just mundane research and started tinkering on his own. And his research caught the attention of an insecure senior scientist who then set Bidu up for smuggling top secret technology and claimed Bidu's research for the Republic. Bidu escaped before he could be arrested, and taking with him some of the prototypes that he developed. He's now wanted as an outlaw scientist by the Republic, and Bidu now uses his intelligence to do what he was accused of in the first place, smuggling top secret technology. And as it turns out, he's pretty good at doing just that. So he is an arcane trickster that I just reskinned and just tried to take that basically as pretty much straightforward from the player's handbook as I could, which was actually pretty easy. One of the things that I did kind of make I wanted to talk to you about, Mark, I gave him in terms of the skills, one of them is Arcana, which I kind of assumed in this world might be like science or technology. And I just wanted to kind of confirm that with you before we actually started playing.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense to me.
Okay. Because it could either be that or I guess also force type stuff, but he definitely wouldn't have any knowledge with that. So I just tried to pick one that made sense.
Yeah, and I think that also in this world, people know of the Force, but not everyone. It's a big galaxy, so people have studied it perhaps in different ways. Some people might call it science. Some people might call it religion.
Yeah.
So I think that plays in well.
Nice. So the only thing I guess I homebrewed, and I just used Tasha's rule set for homebrewing the Rhodian race. And essentially it's a +2 to Dex, +1 to Wisdom, because they have like very sensitive hearing. So they can see in infrared, so he has dark vision to 60 feet and the infrared spectrum. I gave him a hearing bonus, which is advantage on hearing perception checks using hearing, because they do have those sensitive orifices. It's just like something that's mentioned in their race wiki. And then I also gave him weakness to cold, because they are a more reptilian and they're cold-blooded. So I feel like if cold damage was used against him, he'd be vulnerable to it.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And then they also have like suction cup fingers. So I think I gave him just like proficiency in sleight of hand, because they have those suction cup fingertips. So mechanically I tried to like make sure that there was some kind of weakness in there to kind of counteract any like bonuses that he would get, but they're not terribly powerful or anything. The cool thing about the Arcane Trickster that I really love is they have Mage Hand Ledger Domain, which is just a boost to the Mage Hand cantrip. So the prototype technology that Bidu developed was like a tactile hollow projector. So like a small little projector that could actually interact with the world, even though it's made out of like electrons or, something less tangible, but it's pretty limited in what it can do. So it's basically just Mage Hand, but it's like a cool little hollow hand is what I called it.
I love that. That's sweet.
And then I gave him the Observant feat because he's a scientist and it's just part of his personality that he's just like very interested in the world. That gives an intelligence bump of 1. It gives you the ability, if you can see a creature's mouth while it's speaking a language you understand, you can interpret it by reading its lips. And then you have a +5 bonus to passive wisdom perception and passive intelligence investigation scores.
Oh, wow.
Which is really nice. So his like passive perception is 19 based on that.
Jeez.
Which is huge.
Wow. Okay. That is huge. I need to keep that in mind.
Yeah. And what else? In terms of those magic items, the things that I gave him were a weapon of warning. So it's technically a magical weapon, but it doesn't add any damage bonus. What it does is it warns you of danger. While the weapon is on your person, you have an advantage on initiative rolls. In addition, any of your companions within 30 feet can't be surprised except when incapacitated by something other than non-magical sleep. The weapon magically awakens you and your companions within range if any of you are sleeping naturally when combat begins. So I kind of imagine him building in like he's wanted by the Republic. So I imagine he built in this like proximity sensor into his blaster that like is tuned to maybe certain frequencies or something along those lines, and it just like either beeps or buzzes or gives him some kind of alert to kind of help him get a jump on mainly running away. Like that's his MO is like running and hiding. But that is like how I tried to reskin that weapon. And then the other thing that I gave him was a distortion weave scarf, which is basically like a cloak of Elvenkind, which just helps with like being stealthy and hiding.
That's sweet.
So some of the things that I wanted to experiment with Bidu is I wanted to try and speak in Rhodian, which is just a made up language, but I want to play around with that, kind of like Billy's problem, the communication problem. One way I'm going to address that is I'm just going to translate, because Rhodian I think might be a more common language, but in the post of this, I'm going to edit that out, the translation. So it'll kind of be like playing off of whatever, kind of like how they do in the movies.
That could be really cool.
I want to play around with it just from like a storytelling perspective, just to see how it goes. But if it doesn't work, then I'll dump it.
Yeah, like how Hans just like talks to Chewie, and everybody else is like, "What?"
Yeah, and it'd be like, "Oh yeah, I agree. The steak tartare is quite good." But with some of his spells, all of his spells are going to be tech based. So In terms of the Arcane Trickster kind of spell set that I picked, Hollow Hand, of course, that's like required for Arcane Trickster. I pulled some spells from our Unearthed Arcana for like modern spells. So one is just called On Off, and that lets you activate or deactivate any electronic device within range as long as it has like a clear on off function. So I think it's just like a little hack that he can do as a cantrip.
That's so funny. That seems like something that would be useless in Dungeons and Dragons normally.
Yeah.
But now it's like everything's going to have an on-off switch.
That's exactly why I tried to where I picked it. It's just like this actually could be incredibly useful only in this world or some kind of like high-tech world. And then another cantrip was Sapping Sting, which is essentially like a vicious mockery, but instead of like disadvantage or anything, if it hits, it's a 1d4 damage and it knocks them prone for a turn, or for their like just knocks them prone. They have to get up. So it's essentially like his runaway tactic. He'll try and like knock them down and then flee. So those are his cantrips. And then for spells, he has Detect Droid, which is just find familiar, which he'll typically use for like a little seeker droid. Real-time translator, which is comprehend languages. And then 2 more Unearthed Arcana spells. One is called Distort Value, which I think is mostly just like a flavor type spell. It allows you to like swindle. Let me read the description.
Oh, interesting.
I felt like for a smuggler, it would be the perfect spell. You cast this spell on an object, doubling the object's perceived value by adding illusionary flourish or reducing its perceived value by half with the help of illusionary dents and scratches.
Oh, wow.
Anyone examining must roll an investigation check against your spell save to see. So I thought that was kind of fun for like it's more of a thematic spell. And then the last one is Remote Access, and this is another one. Basically lets you kind of do more hacking, essentially, but to a finer degree, I guess. You can use any electronic device within range as if it were in your hands. It's not telekinesis. Rather, it lets you simulate a device's mechanical functions electronically. You're able to access only functions that a person using the device would be able to access. You can only use it with one device at a time. So I thought that was just thematic for him. He's a techie, scientist, smuggler type of thing. So like hacking into things would be just something that he would be able to do.
Yeah, that's super cool.
And a lot of this stuff is done just through, he wears a Mandalorian power shield, which is like a gauntlet that emits just like a field. And that's just studded leather armor, which is 15 AC, which is like just normal, I guess.
Yeah, I did want to ask, or maybe, I mean, this might be for in-game proper, but I would be intrigued to know how Bidu came across a Mandalorian power shield.
Yeah, I think that actually happened just through his smuggling trade. Like he goes through, he acquires stuff, he flips stuff, he's always moving, contraband. So I think that's kind of, I don't have like a full story behind it, but I think that's like how it might have come up.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't know if you had some backstory where he, like beat some buddy or won something, or you know what I mean? But that makes total sense.
Yeah. And
because like if something like that came through your shop, you would probably keep it yourself.
Right.
Could.
Yeah. You keep the good stuff. And then of course he likes to tinker. So he likes to like modify anything that he's got. Yeah. That's some of like the tech gear that he uses. So yeah, that's Bidu.
Nice. Sounds sweet. I feel like you guys have a lot of really interesting characters going on here, and you've covered a lot of bases. I know you didn't like coordinate skills or anything, but I feel like got the major badass barbarian, you've got a bunch of tech, and like you're gonna be able to do the tech stuff. Got a droid coming along. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, we've got I could be happier with this party makeup actually. And I think it all happened within silos, which is, well, I guess Billy was able to like listen to what Eric and I.
Yeah, and this is I won't go into too much detail because one of my personal. Oh, you know what, Chris? we didn't do, I wanted to hear a little bit about your thoughts on like your personal, what's the challenge and goal for your role play with this character? Like you had asked the others.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. Well, one thing that I wanted to challenge myself with this character is I wanted to bring in some of the stuff we've been talking about in past episodes. So trying to flesh out more of the bonds, ideals, traits, those things to kind of, and make those such that they push and pull the character. I want to really try to embody those and bring those into the character. That's going to be really important, like at least for me to get fulfillment out of this game. I really want to have fun with like playing this different voice and playing a different type of character who's like more maybe investigative or logical or, you know, intelligent. I think it's hard to play like really intelligent players or characters because I feel like I'm just normally intelligent. So trying to role play somebody who's super smart, I think will be a challenge. Yeah, and then just kind of doing the Rhodian voice is going to be a fun way to explore some role playing, but I'm really kind of curious and nervous about how that's gonna play out. And then I guess in terms of like what drives him, his personality, he's calm no matter what. He doesn't raise his voice or let his emotions control him. He likes to observe and listen before speaking. So I don't think he'll be the face of the party by any means. The best way to get him to do something is tell him he can't do it. And in terms of ideals, freedom, you know, chains are meant to be broken, as are those who would forge them. So that's kind of a chaotic one. People with too much power are corrupt and deserve to be stolen from. So this kind of develops from his ousting as a Republic scientist, not trusting people with too much power, and those types of people need to be, you know, brought down a peg. Bonds, he only enjoys stealing when it's a challenge. He doesn't steal like when it's easy, or he's not necessarily as opportunistic. And he's aloof. He gets to things on his own time, and is never in a hurry. Only does things if they'll benefit him. And kind of similar to Arik, people need to prove their value before he'll trust them.
Nice, yeah. I think that's a good one because, again, thematically, you know, makes sense that you guys, having been out in the Star Wars universe, are, you know, you don't trust people because there's very few people to be trusted.
Right. And
So,
that was kind of like the framework I was trying to look through this character, like through their perspective of like, this is going to be a tough world.
I found the magical items that I want Arik to have.
Do tell.
So the winged boots, like Billy mentioned, that I mentioned last time that I forgot about because I didn't write it on my sheet.
rocket boots.
Rocket boots, a la like Cad Bane, basically.
Nice.
Are you gonna?
Go ahead.
Nothing. No, I was gonna make a stupid Swotar joke. I need to not do that. Go ahead.
I don't. Yeah. Well, so these boots, it's like they're pretty powerful. I more than likely won't use them to their full extent because they seem like too powerful. While wearing the boots, you have a flying speed equal to your walking speed, and you can fly for up to 4 hours, which is insane. All at once,
right?
Yeah, a day. 4 hours a day is a long time to be flying around.
You might get tired of flying at that point.
Right? All at once are several shorter flights, each using a minimum of 1 minute. So I'm gonna nerf that to like, there ain't no way she's gonna have enough fuel to fly for 4 hours in these little boots. I'll make it more reasonable to where I don't know how long she can fly in them, but not for 4 hours straight. That's insane. And the other one I picked, I wanted something for RX. So there's a thing from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything called the All-Purpose Tool.
That sounds perfect.
Crazy interesting. So this simple screwdriver, or just thing that's inside RX, can transform into a variety of tools. As an action, you can touch the item, transform it into any type of artisan tool of your choice. So see equipment. So it could be any of the artisan tools. Whatever tool you takes, you have proficiency with it. While holding the tool, you get a bonus to the spell attack roll and the saving throw DC of your artificer spells, which we don't have those. The bonus is determined by the tool's rarity. The other cool part is, as an action, you can focus on the tool and channel your creative forces. Choose a cantrip that you don't know from any class list. For 8 hours, you can cast that cantrip, and it counts as an artificer cantrip for you. Once this property is used, it can't be used again until the next dawn. So basically, like, he has any artificer tool. So if we need to forge something, we can make him do it. And if I'm like, hey, we need like a fire lit or something, he can do like a warlock cantrip and set a fire or something like that. But he can only do that once. Well, it seems like he can do the cantrip for 8 hours, but I can only switch it once a day.
Yeah. Which is still like, you can't switch your
super
cantrips
powerful.
ever
No.
normally. So you have the ability to have every cantrip available to you. That's rad.
Yeah, so it gives him like kind of like a Felix the Cat kind of bag of many things I can just pull stuff from, which is what I want my droid to do.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's a perfect item. Like, that is absolutely thematic and useful, and yeah, that is absolutely amazing.
And I'll do my best to not like make it crazy.
Well,
like,
just keep in mind too, there's only 3 of us, so we're a little I don't think we're underpowered. We actually have a pretty well optimized group this time.
Yeah.
But we're still maybe 1 or 2 characters short. So,
but I mostly mean like I need to figure out how to like reskin these things. So like Mei-Chan would be hard for him to like. I don't know how he would do that. Mending easy, like so. There are some Elder's Blast is just I shoot stuff at him. I shoot damage at him. So but like Druidcraft, how the hell like? So there's just some that I'm gonna have to figure out.
Don't worry, you'll never use Druidcraft.
I know, right?
Don't use Druidcraft.
I'm looking at a list of stuff. Like, what is it? Like, yeah. So there's just some that I don't know if I could shillelagh. Like, what would he do?
Swing a hammer around.
Yeah, but like acid splash, easy. He shoots acid, like
Yeah,
or like hot oil or whatever.
This murder utility droid. Oh, that's awesome. All right, Mark, is there anything you wanted to cover with respect to the game, to the setting, the story, or anything else before we wrap up this Zero session part 2?
I don't think so. No, I think we are good. I also don't quite know because it's my first trip down this rabbit hole. So, we'll stumble through some things, but I think it's definitely a good team. And now my concern has flipped from when at first I was like, okay, we're going to have a couple medical droids and they're just going to get totally dominated. And now I'm like, oh, I see what you're doing. We got the cover. We got wisdom here. We got strength here. We've got everything. Like, you guys are ready for this adventure, I think.
Well, let's not wait. Let's not hesitate. That's it for our Zero session update for Deep and Creeping Darkness. Join us next week, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, as Arik, Bidu, and Gupt get swept up in this Star Wars 5e adventure. Take your TIE Fighter over to +1togaming.com to subscribe for updates on live play episodes, character building tips, DM resources, and more. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.